Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I'm stepping in as your expert CBSE geography teacher right now to deliver a really punchy, logic-driven masterclass on resources and development. We're totally stripping away the fluff today to focus exactly on what you need to crush those competency-based questions. So let's get started.
All right, let's jump straight in and bust a massive myth right off the bat. A lot of people think resources are just these free gifts of nature, just sitting around waiting to be picked up. Well, they absolutely aren't. Resources are entirely a function of human activities. We, human beings, are literally the most essential components of resources because we are the ones who transform the raw materials in our environment into something actually useful. Without human intervention, a chunk of coal is quite literally just a rock.
Here is our quick mental map for today's rapid revision. We'll cover basics in classification, sustainability and planning, land utilization, land degradation, vital soils, and finally, your board checklist. Section 1, Basics and Classification.
Okay, so let's talk definitions. Examiners are basically hunting for three exact phrases here. If something in our environment is not technologically accessible, economically feasible, and culturally acceptable, it is simply not a resource. Think about it logically for a second. If you have gold buried way under your house, but it actually costs you more money to dig it up than the gold is worth, well, it's not economically feasible, therefore not a resource. You really need to memorize this triad. It's the absolute foundation for this entire chapter.
And to transform those things in our environment, there's this constant, interdependent relationship between nature, technology, and institutions. It's like a giant triangle, and we, as human beings, sit right dead in the center. We interact with the physical environment, nature, by using technology, and then we create institutions to accelerate our economic development. That is the exact mechanism of how development actually happens. So how do we organize all of this in our heads? Instead of just trying to memorize some random list, look at it as a logical hierarchy. Resources split fundamentally into two buckets, natural and human. Natural resources are then divided again into renewable and non-renewable. It's actually a beautifully structured system that makes perfect sense once you step back and see the big picture.
Let's zoom in on that natural branch for a second. Renewable resources can be replenished by nature over a relatively short period of time. Think crops, wind, or solar energy. On the flip side, non-renewable resources take millions of years to form, and they get totally exhausted after years of use, like crude oil or fossil fuels. So the crucial point here, the thing examiners love to test, is the time frame of replenishment. This is a super common competency-based question concept, so make sure you truly understand the why behind this classification.
Moving right along to Section 2, Sustainability and Planning. So if we just keep extracting everything in sight, our planet is in serious danger. And that brings us to sustainable development. This is a guaranteed high-yield board definition. It basically means development should take place without damaging the environment, and whatever we're doing right now shouldn't compromise the needs of future generations. This whole concept was the primary driving force behind the historic 1992 Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, which led directly to the adoption of Agenda 21, and the main goal of Agenda 21, to combat environmental damage and poverty on a global scale.
But how does this actually translate into practical application for a country like India? Well, resource planning is a very specific three-stage technique. By the way, this is a classic long answer board question. First up, you identify and inventory exactly what you have through surveying and mapping. Second, you evolve a planning structure by equipping it with the right technology, skills, and institutions. And third, which is arguably the most important, you have to match your specific resource development plans with your overall national development plans.
All right, Section 3, Land Utilization. When we look at India's physical reality, there's a very stark geographical contrast. Our net sown area, which is just the physical extent of land where crops are actually harvested, varies vastly depending on where you are. In states like Punjab and Haryana, it covers over 80% of the total area. But then you look at places like Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, or the Andaman Nicobar Islands, and it's less than 10%. This completely proves why national resource planning absolutely has to be adaptable to local, regional realities. Next up, Section 4, Land Degradation and Conservation. So why is our land getting ruined? I want you to focus on the underlying logic here. Different economic activities degrade the soil in completely different ways. We aren't just giving a generic pollution is bad answer here. Mining and quarrying leave deep physical scars and traces of overburdening.
Over-irrigation, on the other hand, causes waterlogging, which actually chemically alters the soil by increasing its salinity and alkalinity. Truly understanding these specific mechanisms is your secret weapon for acing those exams.
Listen up, because this right here is a massive CBSE trap warning. Examiners absolutely love testing these state-specific causes in multiple choice questions. If you see Jharkhand or Odisha in a question, you need to immediately think deforestation due to mining. If you see Gujarat or Rajasthan, the primary culprit is overgrazing. And if they ask about Punjab and Haryana, the answer is over-irrigation. Do not mix these up. Seriously, lock this into your memory. Let's dive into Section 5, Vital Soils and PYQs.
When you get a question asking you to describe a soil type, you've got to be systematic. Let's look at arid soil, which is a really heavy favorite in past papers. Always structure your answer logically. First, mention the color. It ranges from red to brown. Then note the texture. It's sandy and saline. Point out that it lacks humus and moisture. And finally, never forget the unique features, like its high concentration of conker nodules that actually restrict water infiltration. If you apply this exact same framework to alluvial and black soils, you are setting yourself up for full marks.
Okay, let's look at a real-world test. A brilliant PYQ, previous year question from the 2021-22 board exams. It's an assertion-reason question. Assertion: Indian farmers should diversify cropping patterns from cereals to high-value crops. Reason: this will increase income and reduce environmental degradation simultaneously. This perfectly tests your ability to connect the economic feasibility of resources directly with environmental conservation. And yes, in this case, both the assertion and reason are absolutely correct, and the reason perfectly explains the assertion. Why? Because high-value crops demand significantly less water than cereals, which solves our over-irrigation problem while simultaneously boosting the farmer's wallet.
Finally, Section 6, your final board checklist.
If it's the night before your geography exam, these are the core competency concepts you need to focus on. They form the absolute backbone of the entire chapter. Take a mental screenshot right now. If you can confidently explain everything from the 3 pillars of a resource definition to the specific state-wise causes of land degradation, you are totally prepared.
I'm going to leave you with a slightly provocative thought, one deeply inspired by the Brundtland Commission and Gandhian philosophy. Mahatma Gandhi famously said that there is enough for everybody's need and not for anybody's greed. So as you wrap up this masterclass, I want you to ask yourself, how will you approach your own resource footprint going forward? Are you going to be a mindful custodian of the future, or just a consumer of the present? Keep learning, keep questioning everything, and best of luck with those board exams.